So a very big welcome to you all. It's Natalie Ashdown here with you from Open Door Coaching. Welcome to our coaching cafe, where today we're looking at some of the best tools, I reckon, for overcoming procrastination. And thank you for that little pause whilst I just swap my headphones over swap the technology around. I'm always charging something, I think, nowadays, whether it's the computer or earbuds or whatever it might be. So before I begin, I'd just like to do the Acknowledgement of Country. And we acknowledge the traditional owners and the custodians of the lands on which we meet today, and their continuing connection to the land, the waters and communities of Australia. And we pay our respects to them and to their elders, past, present and emerging, and anyone who might be on the line today with us from an Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander descent. So that's me in full Zoom mode. I did used to have my professional photo here, but I thought let's be a bit more realistic. This is what it looks like with flip charts and everything going on behind in Zoom mode. So today I'd like to talk about why do we actually procrastinate? And I don't mind telling you, you are currently listening to the Queen of Procrastination. So I do a lot of procrastinating, and I know there's a lot of great coaches on the line. So I'm expecting today to generate a lot of great coaching questions that we can use to help ourselves overcome procrastination and look at some of the best tools, particularly that we have in our certificate for in workplace and business coaching programs. So to showcase a couple of those tools that we have in the program. I know there's a lot of alumni on the line and a lot of great coaches on the line. So you'll be familiar with this tool, but I always feel that it's great to go back and look at the old favorites and just to heighten our awareness of how we use these coaching tools with our clients, with ourselves, and with the people around us as well. So we'll be looking at lots of coaching questions and generating those together. The way we can do that, it's just what you're doing now. Feel free to pop a message into the chat box with me. I love it when we generate coaching questions together, because our coaching cafe, if you're new to the Coaching Cafe, as Eleanor is, we're all about creating a community, coming together for a shared learning experience, having thought-provoking conversations, and we come together every Friday at this time. And a lot of regulars, we all get together to discuss coaching, which I really enjoy. I love this time out on Friday lunchtime. That's Melbourne time. I know there's a lot of people who join in from around the world, and that's wonderful. You're joining in at your time frame, and there's always a lot of people who are listening to this recording after the session as well. So wherever you're joining us today, or if you're listening to this recording at another time, welcome. We are all about creating a shared learning opportunity. And if you are collecting your ICFC CEUs, then you can simply send a message to us at support@opendoorcoaching.com.au. We do offer those CCUs free of charge as a way of giving back to the coaching industry and our coaching community as well. So thank you. And Eleanor says she loves it. Great to have access to a community, and you're going to block out this time weekly. Excellent. Well, that's a great start already. So that's terrific. So let's talk about what makes us procrastinate. And as I mentioned, you are talking to the Queen of Procrastination here. So let's just talk about what makes us procrastinate. So if you wouldn't mind popping some messages into the chat box, when you think about the reasons why you actually procrastinate, let's generate some reasons together. This is a safe space. we all procrastinate at some stage. I'm interested in what makes you procrastinate. The other thing I'd like to offer you is this equation, which I really always reflect on. This comes from Tim Gallwey in his book, The Inner Game of Tennis. And Tim Gallwey worked with the late Sir John Whitmore quite extensively on their book, on Sir John Whitmore's book, Coaching for Performance. And in that book, they talk about our performance equals our potential. So as coaches, we're coaching people around their potential, but also as part of our jobs, we're helping people get rid of interference that's actually getting in the way. And procrastinating is, I put that into the interference bucket. So we want to be high-performing individuals in the workplace. We're coaching people, our team members, to high performance in the workplace. We want to be high performers ourselves, but there's always some interference. Well, not always, but there can be interference that gets in the way. And procrastination is one of those things. So let's have a look at the chat box and what you've shared with us all here around procrastination. The chat box is lit up. I absolutely love it. So yeah, thank you, Sonia. She says procrastination happens because the job is too hard. The job is too hard, or it's too big. I can tell you that gets me all the time. You've got something very big that you need to move forward on, but it's almost overwhelming, isn't it? And Nicole agrees with you there, that she's at her worst when you have to start something new, but it's really big. It's like, where do we actually start? Marie offers that the decision is when you need to make a decision or take an action, but it's complex. Like, let's acknowledge that the decisions we're making can be complex. They can be quite hard. So I know I need to make a decision, but there's a lot that's got to go into it, isn't there, in that thinking? The task is difficult, or you don't understand it. So Charmaine says, if the task is difficult, too big, you don't understand exactly what you need to do, then you'll put it off. I'm the same, absolutely. Chris offers hard, uncomfortable, unpleasant. We don't want to do it, so we find ways to delay it. Yeah, there's probably a million things, isn't there? Like, it's like, let's face it, not everything is going to be super energizing. So it's uncomfortable, it's unpleasant. I don't really want to do it. So I, like you, Chris, will find many ways to actually delay it. I'll all of a sudden become the world's greatest leader. You know, would anyone like a coffee? I'll start connecting with people. I'll put the washing on if you're working from home, you know. All of a sudden things need to be tidied and shredded and yes, so that's all hole punching. I love laminating. I'll do anything to get out of these unpleasant unpleasant tasks. Let me help you with that, laminating. Jenna, thank you. She offers that you haven't prioritized. Yeah, so if you don't have your priorities laid out, then you can be easily distracted. You know, sometimes I even write down on my note paper, you must do this, underlying, and I underline it and I look at it and then I think, yeah. So priorities, Rob agrees. Eleanor, thank you. You mentioned fear. So maybe that you're worried about something, there's doubt. And of course, Netflix can get in the way. Jody, thank you for offer there. You've got, there's too much to do and not enough time to do it in. And you don't seem to have the hard deadline to focus. Yeah, sometimes, you know, we set ourselves these big tasks, but we might not, you know, there's a lot to do. There's not enough time to do it in. And, you know, we may not have set a real hard deadline, so we keep shifting that deadline. Rod says your attitude towards relationships. Eleanor says shiny object syndrome. Yes. So there's always something more shinier, particularly like for me when it's around things like compliance and legal stuff, or I'm very good with the detail, but you know, sometimes when you've got to get into the detail, something shinier. Also that thing where you want to tick off, like I'd rather tick off lots of little tasks and get, you know, instant feedback that I'm ticking off stuff that have to go into a really big task that's going to take a lot of time. A bit of time between getting the tick off. Yeah. Might be able to use that as a strategy, by the way. Marie said, when you're not ready to make the decision and your gut tells you you're not ready. So that's very important. You know, procrastination can actually serve a purpose. I like to think of procrastination as not all bad. It's not all bad, actually. If there's a big decision you need to make and your gut is telling you that you're not ready, then it's actually better, isn't it, to procrastinate? But maybe it's not procrastination. Maybe it's some time to ruminate or to fully consider the decision, to take some time to make the decision. So I often try to distinguish between procrastination that is actually interfering and holding me back versus procrastination when it's actually maybe important to slow down a little, or maybe you need to do it to reset. So I will do some tidying up, which looks like procrastination, but really what I'm doing is I'm resetting from a previous big task into the new task. and I'm kind of fussing and preparing my desk and hole punching and putting things away, it's helping me reset to work on the next thing. It's about how long do I do that for? Of course, that's when it shifts into procrastination that gets in our way. But I do like to think about that. You know, procrastination is not all bad. If we need to slow down a bit, have a think about the next steps. Maybe we need to think about our priorities. Maybe we need to reschedule some things if we're putting ourselves under pressure. And so procrastination might be coming up because we do need to refocus, think about our priorities, things like that. Yeah. And Gail talks about there the mental energy due to consequences of a long lockdown. Yeah, so let's just think about, you know, maybe it looks like procrastinating, but honestly this week I asked myself, why am I procrastinating? And do you know, the answer came back exactly what you say there, Gail. I'm tired. I'm not actually procrastinating. Maybe you could say I was, but the reason for that is because I'm tired. So how do we move forward? Well, let's get a bit of rest. Let's do a bit of a reset, rethink about the priorities, and then we can actually, you know, power forward. Yeah. That's where the mental energy comes into it. Yeah. And Angie shared, I want to do it perfectly, so I avoid it. Yeah, that's a really good one too, I think, Angie. There's a lot of us that are got that kind of, you know, I want it to be perfect, but I don't know how to start it and make it perfect, or I don't know how to, you know, finish it so it's perfect. So our perfectionism gets in the way, where perhaps we could just say, well, it's good enough, so let's let it go, you know, that kind of thing. So let's sign it off, let's move on, let it go, or let's just make it the best we can make it right now and then move on. Yeah. Eleanor says she had to learn sometimes that it was valuable. Procrastination was valuable. So stop beating yourself up about reset moments. So don't beat yourself up about it. Let's acknowledge at this time and what's happening, and that process is valuable. Maybe it's a warning sign that sometimes we actually need to stop and rest. Yeah, so that's interesting, isn't it? So with any kind of behavior, I always like to, one of the great coaching questions that we can ask, any behavior that's causing interference, what we suspect is interference. One of the great coaching questions we can ask, this comes out of our diploma program, actually. It's in the Cert 4 as well, but we really focus on it in the diploma. It's about our positive intention. So what's the benefit of procrastinating? What is it giving us? What is it trying to do for us, this behavior of procrastinating? Is it trying to help us rest? Is it trying to help us reset? So thinking about behaviors can sometimes go down a certain pathway, so they're now interfering, but maybe it's also giving us another message that it's not, like Marie says, it's not time yet to make that decision. You've got to just sleep on it a bit more, or ruminate, or get some more information. So maybe it is a warning that we do need to get some more information before we make a decision. Great, thanks. Thanks for your contribution, everyone. It's really interesting to see. And it's really interesting to reframe procrastination, not just as a bad thing, but as actually something that can support us. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you, Gail. She says the act of cleaning and tidying is also a free-form thinking time. Yeah, so it's almost I don't know whether you'd relate to this, but it's almost like a mindfulness activity, or maybe it's allowing our brains to reset. We're just doing something. We're mindful of what we're doing. You know, it is allowing us that free-form thinking time. Marie says, apparently Elizabeth I was a procrastinator. So, so I'm not the first queen of procrastination. Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Gail. So maybe it's free-form thinking time. Maybe it's just a way of thinking about it. Oh, thank you, Charles. Yeah, thank you for joining us. Charles is a volunteer from the Black Dog Institute and actually gave an excellent presentation to us during Mental Health Week. So I'm delighted that you've joined us on the line and you're sharing your experience as well. You can pick up that webinar on our website, actually on the Mental Health Week page. And Charles says from his experience, procrastination is also a trigger for anxiety. So with the potential to impact on mental health and well-being. So thank you for sharing that. So we have to think about that behaviors that we have might be triggering something else. And that might be something to be aware of from our mental health point of view. So thank you for sharing that. It's got a potential to impact on your mental health and well-being. Thank you for sharing. So, I'm exhausted just thinking about it. Shall we just procrastinate now? Or shall we move on? Let's move on. So one of the best tools I've found, this comes out of our certificate in workplace and business coaching program, is to use the Wedep Tool. Now, I'm not exactly sure where I first learned about the Wedep Tool, but over the time and over the years, we've actually modified this tool so much with the coaching questions that it's hard to actually get the original reference. So we use this in our certificate for workplace and business coaching program. Wedep, it's a simple little tool that we actually can step through. Fantastic for coaching ourselves, fantastic for short, sharp kind of conversational coaching. So that kind of coaching in the corridor that we might do. A number of you have seen this tool. I'm sure it's right there on your tool belt next to the Grow model as well. So I love this tool for coaching ourselves, short, sharp coaching in the corridor. Also, it's perfect for procrastination, because really what it's asking us is to go back to the W, which is, well, what is it we really want? So let's use an example. Perhaps I'm supposed to get a proposal off to a client, or I need to finish a brief, or I need to finish a piece of work, but I find myself procrastinating. Perhaps it's a good idea to go back to, well, what is it you really want? And when we think about that piece of work that we need to finish, and this is a great opportunity, isn't it? So if you were to think about right here and now, everyone on the line, something that you're procrastinating about, and you think about, well, what is it you really want? And it might be, to make that decision, to finish that piece of work, to knock that thing off, to get that thing off our plate. Maybe it's something else. You know what I really want is, I had this last weekend. I just want a free weekend. So what I really want is to finish this piece of work. Sure, that's the goal. But for why? Why do I want that? Because I don't want to have to work on the weekend. I want a free weekend. So if I focus on that, I really want a free weekend, I don't want to take this task into the weekend, then I can think about that as well. I really want to clear my to-do list, says Gillian. Yes. So the other question we can ask there, Gillian, is for what purpose? So if you were to have a clear to-do list, what would that then enable you? What would it give you? So I love those coaching questions to really think about, well, why do we want? We don't often ask the why questions, but we can ask, well, for what purpose? What is it that you want that a clear to-do list would give you? I'm for you as well. I just want those ticks in the boxes. But the reason I want that is because I want to just finish off the week with satisfaction. So that's the other thing that you want, is some satisfaction that you've had an excellent week. You've tied it up with a nice big red bow around it, and you can go into the weekend. Yeah. Charles says, finalising his tax lodgement with his accountant. Yes, so what I want is to finalise my tax lodgement with my accountant. And we had a talk about this during the week as well in my family. What do we really want? A massive refund. So how do we get that massive refund? You got to finalise it, don't you? You got to get that tax done. If that's what you want, is a massive refund, then what you really want is to finalise it. Yeah. Gillian says she wants to be able to start something that she's passionate about. Oh gosh, isn't that wonderful? So you knock off that to-do list, then you can start something that you're passionate about. That's terrific. So we're focusing on what we want and for what purpose. And Eleanor says, what a great topic for Friday morning, because if we did this topic Friday morning, I love what you're thinking there, then we'd tie that week up, wouldn't we? Great. So as we're coaching, you can write this down as we go. Let's get something out of this short, sharp coaching session that we're all doing with each other. So what is it we want? We want to finalize the tax return, start something we're passionate about, clear our to-do lists, finish off the week strong, whatever it might be. Okay, here comes the kicker question. So now we're going to ask ourselves, what are we doing about this? So now this is an important question, and it's got a bit of a sting in the tail. So if you're doing this in a kind of corridor coaching situation, watch out for this, because this is the big reality hit, if you like. So what are we doing about it? Or what direction are you taking? Now, sometimes when we ask this question, you come up with donuts. And I'm not just talking about COVID donuts here. I'm talking about zero. So we want to move forward with that tax return. What are we doing about it? What are we actually doing about it? So it's a good reality check. And that's where the procrastination often kicks in. So what am I doing? Well, a lot of thinking. I have done a little bit about it. I have saved my statements and stuff. You know, when I'm thinking about ticking off my to-do list, what am I actually doing? I'm ticking off all the little bits. I'm doing a little bit by little bit. Am I hitting the big ones though? So maybe there's something else I need to do. Yeah. I'm doing a little bit by little bit. The hardest part is compiling the outgoings. Yeah, so it's good to acknowledge that you're doing bits of it, but there's a bit that's actually is hard or is a sticking point. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah. So this question is about saying what are you doing? How is what you're doing? Sorry, I beg your pardon. So what direction are you taking towards what you want? Now, if you really are mucking around and you're not really doing anything, then you can actually just state here, do you know what I'm doing? I'm doing nothing. I'm mucking around. I'm doing la, la, la. You know what I'm doing? I'm laminating when I should be, you know, I'm stacking or filing or hole punching when I should be just looking for that thing. So I'm doing email instead of looking for my compiling my outgoings. So it's good to say, well, what I'm doing is email when I really should be compiling my outgoings, for example. Yeah. So we're thinking about what are we doing about it? What direction we're taking? And then we're going to evaluate. So how is that working for you? Now, watch out. We have to watch our rapport here. Okay. So if you're asking this question of someone, watch out that it doesn't come across as, well, how's that working for you? You know, when you say it like that, how's that working for you? It's laced with judgment. It sounds like it's not. It's got that real tone to it. So what we're trying to do is keep quite open here. If we're coaching ourselves, if I'm coaching myself, I'm just going to go, how's that working for you? Yeah, it's not, right? But if we're coaching someone else, be careful here about your tone. And, you know, I'm talking to great coaches, so I know I don't have to remind you, but if you haven't used this tool for a while or you haven't used it at all, just watch your tone. So we're really evaluating now. So how is that working for you? Or how is what you're doing? So say I should be compiling my outgoings, but I'm doing my emails instead. How is what you're doing getting you what you want? So that's really what we're evaluating. Now, if it is getting you what you want, if it is actually helping you move forward, fantastic. How do you plan to proceed? If it's not, then okay, how do you plan to proceed? Got the idea? So Charles, thank you for sharing. He says resourcing and composing his blogs is so much more fulfilling and rewarding. So yeah, it might be that you're doing something that's more exciting, more fulfilling, more rewarding. It's more energizing. You know, I would much rather be being creative, doing my blogs, responding to clients, you know, because that's fulfilling, it's rewarding, it's part of what you do. And that means that some of these other things are on the back burner. So if spending all your time there, if that's actually working for you, great. What we need to then think about is how then do you plan to proceed with what you want, which is getting your lodgement done. So if the other examples we've got going on there, so if you really want to focus on something that you're passionate about. So Gillian said she wants to start something she's passionate about. So how is what you're doing getting you what you want? So maybe you need to knock off that to-do list so that you can actually move forward with what you really want, which is the stuff that you're most excited about. Think about the refund, everyone's saying. Think about the refund. Yeah, so sometimes we have to think about, if we were to get this done, what would that give us? What are the other benefits? As some people will as Charles says, will cram. So just keep cramming closer to the deadline. Let that pressure build up. So that's the other thing too. We can also ask ourselves, well, how is that working? If we're just going to cram and let that pressure build up, if that's not working for us because it's causing stress, it's causing anxiety, it's having an impact, then we might think about, well, how do we plan to proceed? Okay, so when we're thinking through these scenarios, we're thinking, well, if what's happening, if what we're doing is cramming or letting the pressure build up or letting the stress build up and we'll just do it the night before, how's that working for us? Maybe there's an opportunity actually to do something different in order to get what we want, which is lodge that tax return, do that thing, knock off that decision, like focus, we want a decision and we're kind of procrastinating. So maybe if worrying about it, if delaying it, if stuffing around with something else is not really working, then how do we plan to proceed? Great. Don't forget though, if you do this tool and what you're doing is working for you, great. How do you plan to proceed? So we're looking at that other side of it as well. Charles has already decided he's got a new plan. He's going to get to it this afternoon and there's no one home, so there'll be no distractions. Great. So how do you plan to proceed? When we're coaching here, we're going, all right, what am I actually going to do? I'm going to do it this afternoon. So we've got momentum now. We've got the momentum. We're thinking about, all right, this afternoon sounds good, or by whatever time it is this afternoon, we'll have that piece done. The best thing to do there, as we know as coaches, is to break it down now. So with our plan, let's break it down into the actual pieces or chunks that we're going to do, and then you can set your timings around that as well. Yeah. Watch out, Charles. If you come back to the Coaching Cafe next week, there's other coaches that'll be checking in with you. And Gillian says no wiggling. So yeah, so how do we plan to proceed? I'm not going to do any wiggling. I'm going to lay out, prioritize that to-do list, chunk it down, work out what needs to be done, and then off we go. So I love it. There's lots of coaching going on, isn't there? It's great. Lots of people to check in with each other. We come back together every Friday so we can be checking in with each other. No more wiggling, no more saying maybe. Let's get on with it. Donuts for everyone when Charles gets his refund. Lynn says donuts all round. I love it. Oh, you know what? We're going to be running across the 7-Eleven for the $1 coffee and the donuts now. Oh, I love it. Good on you. Okay, so to get this momentum, if everyone doesn't mind, let's keep going with this momentum. So we're right on time. What needs to start? What needs to stop? What do you need to do more of? What do you need to do less of to keep this momentum? And here's what I've been doing. The simple thing of set your timer. So we want to know when are you going to do it this afternoon? What time are you going to do it this afternoon? And we want to move towards getting that refund, for example. So what time are we going to do it this afternoon? Are you going to do it this afternoon? And the best thing I can suggest here, how simple is this? Set the timer on my phone. I'm going to do this for 15 minutes and then I can have a little break. I'll walk around the block or I'll just stand up and stretch, whatever it is. Then I'm going to set another 15 minutes. Now, what I have been doing, and I find this is fantastic, is if you set that 15 minutes, sometimes you start off a little bit procrastinating, like you burn maybe the first minute, but then you're like, quick, the clock's ticking, dude. So, or dudette. So I commit to doing 15 minutes. What happens is that first 15 minutes gets you into the task. It gets you into it. And if you try it, that time will go like a flash, like it'll go so quickly. And then what I do is I set it for another 15 minutes. And then I set it for another 15 minutes. And before you know it, I've actually spent 45 minutes on that task, and I may have even knocked it off. So there's been some really difficult pieces of my doctorate, some really deep thinking that I've needed to do. And I've just sat down and I've gone 15 minutes, just start it, write anything, do anything. Just if that's the task that you got to do, look for your outgoings, or write that blog, finish that piece of the proposal, tick off that task, whatever it is. So just set your timer, do 15 minutes, and then see how you go. So the 15 minutes gets you moving, gets the momentum going. Set the timer, set the time that you're going to do it, and then do it. What we're looking for here is small chunks, small pieces that can actually move you forward. And I have found, particularly with the big tasks, maybe the other thing, like as Marie said, I know we're right on time, but maybe if there's a big decision, maybe it's a 15-minute walk around the block. So set your timer for 15 minutes, go for a walk around the block, get some fresh air, clear your head, think about the decision, because sometimes by the time we come back, something shifted or moved. So maybe it's not 15 minutes. The other thing I want to think about here is maybe it's not 15 minutes of doing. Maybe it's 15 minutes of breathing. Maybe it's 15 minutes of walking. Maybe it's 15 minutes to clear your desk. Do it. Set the 15 minutes to clear your desk, so that then the desk is clear and you can sit down and move on with your task. So the 15 minutes doesn't have to be, right, I'm going to do something. It could be 15 minutes to whatever it is. Set the timer. The 15 minutes is up, then you set the next 15 minutes. Yeah. Charles is going to move on straight away. He's like, let's get off this coaching cafe now. He's motivated and moving forward. Good on you. That's great. So what I love by this, right, we've got a simple, short tool that we can use. We can just step ourselves through those questions. We can have somebody else ask us those questions. As coaches, asking these questions of our clients is fantastic. But we can use it in the workplace with anything that's really going on. And I do love it because we can use it for ourselves as well. So I set my timer for a 5-minute or 10-minute mindfulness session. So I do 5 minutes or 10 minutes of mindfulness, and then I can move on into the task as well. So that's another option for you. Yeah, 15 minutes of breathing before you move on. Yeah. Great, to build that momentum. Well, there you go, everyone. Our short, sharp coaching cafe. These tools that we're featuring over the last few weeks, they are part of our Leader as Coach program, our 2-day program. They are also part of our larger Certificate for and Workplace and Business Coaching program. So if you're thinking about your development as a coach, your development as a leader and as a manager, thinking about that for next year, then feel free to contact us. And we have been talking quite a lot about our mental health first aid program as well. So if those are tools that you'd like to put on your tool belt, particularly to help people with mental health in the workplace and to raise our awareness of how we assist people there. We've got some great programs that you can enjoy there as well. So I know we all have to run. Thanks, Fran. Great to have you join us today. Thanks, everyone. Charles, as you're getting straight on with your preparation, but let's first have lunch. Very important. Let's refresh, re-energize ourselves, and then we can get on with our days as well. I hope everyone has the opportunity to wrap up today with a nice giant bow, and then you have some really refreshing and energizing time. So happy Friday, happy the weekend if you're going into your weekend, and if you're listening to this online, I wish you all the best with knocking off those things that you want to get on with. So thanks, everyone. Thanks for sharing. And Rod said, bring on coffee and donuts. I love that idea. Thanks, Marie. Thanks, Nicole. Thanks for everyone's contribution. It's been terrific to get all those ideas and those great coaching questions generated as well. So good on you, everyone. Have a great time, and most importantly, really enjoy your coaching.